My parents invited me to what they called a fancy family dinner, but when I walked into that restaurant, they pointed me toward the kids' table. I'm 28 years old. Hi, I'm Madison Thompson, and this is the story of the night that changed everything between me and my family. But to understand why sitting at a children's table felt like the final straw, I need to take you back to the beginning. I'm the youngest of 4 kids in what most people would call a successful family. My dad's a partner at a law firm, my mum runs her own real estate business, and all my siblings have what our parents consider proper adult lives, marriages, mortgages, and kids of their own. Sarah's 32 and just got promoted to VP at a major bank. Michael's 35, works in tech, and has twin boys. David's 30, married his college sweetheart, and they just bought their second house. Then there's me, 28, single, working as a marketing coordinator at a mid-sized agency. In my family's eyes, I might as well still be in high school. This pattern started when I was 8 years old. I'll never forget the day our family had to decide whether to move from our small ranch house to a bigger place across town. It was a huge decision. New schools, new neighborhood, leaving behind the only home I'd ever known. But when the family meeting was called, I was sent to my room because I was too young to understand something this important. I sat on my bed, listening through the thin walls as my siblings got to voice their opinions about which house to choose, which schools they preferred, whether the move was a good idea. Even my 10-year-old brother David got to speak up about wanting to stay close to his soccer team, but not me. I was just supposed to accept whatever they decided, like a piece of furniture they'd pack up and move along with everything else. The pattern continued through high school. When Sarah was choosing colleges, the whole family sat around the kitchen table for weeks, discussing the pros and cons of different schools, visiting campuses together, weighing scholarship offers. When it was my turn 4 years later, my parents had already decided I should go to the local state university to stay close to home and save money. No family meetings, no campus visits, no discussions about what I might want to study or where I might thrive. "You're still figuring yourself out," my mom said, when I asked why I couldn't apply to the art program in California that I'd been dreaming about. "It's better to stay somewhere safe while you grow up a little more." I was 17. My siblings had been making major life decisions at 17, but somehow I was still too immature. College was supposed to be my chance to prove myself, to show them I could be independent and responsible. I worked 2 jobs to pay for my own apartment off campus, maintained a 3, 8 GPA, and graduated summa cum laude with a degree in marketing and communications. I was proud of what I'd accomplished, excited to show my family that I'd grown into a capable adult. At my graduation party, while I was accepting congratulations from friends and professors, I overheard my dad talking to his brother about my future. "She did well in school," he said, "but she's still got a lot of growing up to do. We'll see how she handles the real world. College is one thing, but adult life is completely different." I was 22 years old, about to start my first professional job, and my own father was talking about me like I was a child playing dress-up in grown-up clothes. The real world, as it turned out, suited me just fine. I landed a position at a respected marketing agency, worked my way up from assistant to coordinator, and consistently exceeded my performance targets. I managed campaigns for major clients, led creative teams, and earned the respect of my colleagues. But at family gatherings, when people asked about work, my dad would smile and say, "Madison's doing well at her little job. We're proud of her for trying. Her little job," as if everything I did was diminutive, temporary, practice for the real life I'd someday be ready to live. When I was 25, something happened that I thought might finally change how they saw me. I was promoted to team leader, managing a group of 5 people and overseeing a major rebranding campaign for a national restaurant chain. It was a big responsibility, a clear sign that my company trusted my judgment and leadership abilities. I was so excited to share the news with my family. I imagined my parents' proud faces, maybe even an acknowledgement that their youngest daughter had become a successful professional. Instead, when I called to tell them about the promotion, my mum's first response was, "That's nice, honey, but don't let it go to your head. These entry-level positions can disappear quickly and you don't want to get too comfortable." Entry-level. I'd been working for 3 years and was now managing other people, but it was still just an entry-level position in her mind. "Besides," she continued, "work is just work. What really matters is finding someone nice to settle down with. Sarah was married by your age." Sarah was also 2 years older than me when she got married, but pointing that out would have been arguing, another sign of my immaturity. The breaking point came 6 months ago, during my brother Michael's wedding preparation. Michael was getting married to his longtime girlfriend Emma, and the family was in full celebration mode. There were engagement parties, bachelor and bachelorette parties, dress fittings, cake tastings, all the rituals that mark a couple's transition into married life. I assumed I'd be included in everything, especially the bachelorette party. Emma and I had always gotten along well, and I'd been looking forward to bonding with her as my new sister-in-law. But when I asked Sarah about the plans, she looked uncomfortable. "Well," she said, fidgeting with her coffee cup, "it's going to be more of a mature group. You know, married women, people who can really understand what Emma's going through as she prepares for marriage." "I'm 27, I said, trying to keep my voice level. "I think I can handle a bachelorette party." "It's not about age," Sarah replied, though we both knew it absolutely was. "It's about life experience. Emma wants to be surrounded by women who've been through what she's going through. You'll understand when you get there yourself." When you get there yourself. As if marriage was some distant destination I might someday be mature enough to reach, rather than a choice I simply hadn't made yet. I wasn't invited to the bachelorette party. Instead, I was asked to help coordinate by handling logistics, booking the restaurant, arranging transportation, managing the guest list for an event I wasn't allowed to attend. I was the family's unpaid wedding planner, mature enough to handle the adult responsibilities, but not mature enough to be included in the actual celebration. "You're so good at organizing things," my mom said, as if my exclusion was really a compliment. "And this way, you'll feel involved without having to worry about fitting in with the older crowd." That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out what I'd have to do to finally be seen as an adult by my own family. Get married? But to whom? And why should my worth be determined by my relationship status? Have kids? But I wasn't even sure I wanted children, and shouldn't that be my choice to make when I was ready? Buy a house? I'd been saving for a down payment, but property in our area was expensive, and I was prioritising paying off my student loans first, a financially responsible decision that somehow never seemed to count as evidence of my maturity. It felt like a rigged game where the rules kept changing and the finish line kept moving further away. No matter what I accomplished, what responsible choices I made, or how independently I lived my life, I would always be the baby of the family, too young, too naive, too inexperienced to have a real voice in family decisions or to be trusted with adult relationships and responsibilities. That brings us to last Tuesday night, the dinner that was supposed to celebrate my sister, Sarah's promotion to VP at her bank. It should have been a happy occasion, our whole family coming together to acknowledge Sarah's success and enjoy each other's company at one of the nicest restaurants in the city. My parents had called it a fancy family dinner, emphasizing how special the occasion was and how important it was for everyone to be there. "We're so proud of Sarah," my mum said when she called to invite me. "And we want to celebrate as a family. It's going to be wonderful. Everyone together, even some of Dad's business associates will join us. Sarah deserves to be celebrated properly." I was excited. It had been months since we'd all been together for something positive, and I was genuinely happy for Sarah's success. I'd even bought a new dress for the occasion. Nothing too flashy, but something that made me feel confident and professional. I wanted to look the part of a successful adult daughter celebrating her sister's achievement. The restaurant was exactly as fancy as promised. White tablecloths, crystal stemware, and a sommelier who spoke in reverent tones about wine pairings. The kind of place where conversations are conducted in modulated voices and every detail is designed to impress. My parents had reserved a large section to accommodate our extended group: Mum, Dad, Sarah and her husband Tom, Michael and his wife Emma, David and his wife Jessica, plus 3 of Dad's business colleagues and their spouses. When I arrived, perfectly on time and dressed appropriately for the elegant setting, I looked around for my seat. The adults were arranged around a large round table in the centre of the section, with comfortable chairs and a clear view of the small stage where Sarah would presumably give a speech later in the evening. It looked sophisticated and celebratory, exactly what you'd expect for honouring a newly promoted bank VP. But my parents didn't guide me toward that table. Instead, my mother took my arm and steered me toward a smaller table in the corner where my 3 young nephews were already seated with colouring books and child-friendly appetizers. "Madison, honey, you'll be sitting here with the boys," she said brightly, as if she were announcing something delightful. "They were so excited when we told them Aunt Madison would be at their table. You're so good with kids." I stared at the children's table, and there was no mistaking it for anything else. Booster seats for the youngest nephew, plastic cups instead of crystal, and a completely different menu featuring chicken tenders and mac and cheese. My 8-year-old, 10-year-old and 12-year-old nephews looked up at me with the resigned expressions of children who'd been told that dinner was going to be boring, but that they had to behave anyway. "I'm sorry," I said to my mother, certain there had been some kind of mistake. "I think there might be some confusion about the seating arrangement." "Oh no, dear, it's all planned out perfectly," Mom replied, her voice carrying that cheerful firmness that meant the discussion was over. "The adult table is for the married couples and Dad's business guests. You'll be much more comfortable here with the children. Besides, someone needs to keep an eye on them during dinner." I looked over at the adult table where my siblings were settling into their seats, accepting glasses of wine and engaging in animated conversations about Sarah's promotion, Michael's latest work project, and David's plans for renovating their kitchen. Real adult conversations about careers, investments, and life decisions. The kind of conversations I had every day with my own colleagues and friends, but apparently wasn't qualified to have with my own family. "Mum," I said, trying to keep my voice calm and reasonable, "I'm 28 years old. I think I'd be more appropriate at the adult table." The smile on her face tightened slightly, the way it always did when one of us questioned her arrangements. "Madison, sweetie, you know how these business dinners can be. The conversation gets very serious. Market trends, investment strategies, corporate politics. It's not really your world yet. You'd probably find it boring anyway." Not my world yet. as if the marketing campaigns I managed, the client relationships I maintained, and the business decisions I made every day at my own job existed in some kind of practice realm that didn't count as real business experience. Besides, she continued, you're not married, so you don't really fit with the couple's dynamic at the main table. This way, you can relax and just enjoy yourself without having to worry about keeping up with all the grown-up talk. The words hit me like a physical blow. Grown-up talk. As if everything I'd accomplished in my professional life was just elaborate pretend, and I was still the 8-year-old who got sent to her room during important family discussions. I looked around the restaurant, taking in the scene with new clarity. At the adult table, my father was already deep in conversation with his business associates, gesturing expansively as he talked about some recent legal victory. Sarah was glowing as people congratulated her on the promotion, her husband Tom nodding proudly beside her. Michael and Emma were sharing some story that had everyone laughing, while David and Jessica discussed their upcoming vacation to Europe. And here I was, expected to spend the evening making small talk with children who would rather be at home playing video games. Aunt Madison, are you going to sit down? Asked Tyler, my oldest nephew, looking up from his colouring book with the kind of resigned patience that suggested he'd been through many family dinners where the adults made decisions that didn't make sense to him either. I looked at that table, the plastic cups, the simplified menu, the booster seats, and something inside me just broke, not in a dramatic, explosive way, but quietly, like a thread that's been stretched too far, finally snapping. You know what, Tyler? I said, forcing a smile that I hoped looked more genuine than it felt. I just remembered I have something really important I need to take care of tonight. I walked over to the adult table where the conversation momentarily paused as I approached. I'm so sorry, everyone, I said, directing my words primarily to Sarah, but I just got an emergency call from work. There's a crisis with one of our major accounts, and I need to handle it immediately. Sarah looked disappointed, but not surprised. Oh no, Madison, can't someone else deal with it? Unfortunately, I'm the lead on this account, I replied, which was actually true. I was the lead on several major accounts, something my family never seemed to remember. I really hate to miss this celebration, Sarah. You deserve all the recognition in the world for this promotion. My mother started to protest. Surely they can handle one evening without you, Madison. Family comes first. I completely agree that family comes first, Mum, I said evenly. But I also have professional responsibilities that I take seriously. I'm sure you understand. Before anyone could argue further, I walked over to our waiter and quietly handed him a $50 bill. This is for the kids' table, I told him. Please make sure they get anything they want for dessert, and if there are any issues with the check, this should cover it. Then I gathered my purse, gave Tyler a quick hug, and told him to be good for his parents, and walked out of that restaurant with my head held high. I didn't storm out, didn't slam doors, didn't make a scene that would give them more ammunition to call me dramatic or immature. I simply left, as quietly and professionally as if I really had been called away on business. The drive home gave me time to think, and by the time I pulled into my apartment complex, I knew exactly what I needed to do. This wasn't just about one dinner or one humiliating seating arrangement. This was about a pattern that had been going on for my entire adult life, and it was never going to change unless I changed it. I turned off my phone before I even walked through my front door. I knew that once the dinner ended and they realized I wasn't coming back, there would be calls, probably lots of them. But I needed some time to think, without having to defend my decision to leave or explain my feelings to people who had shown repeatedly that they weren't ready to hear them. My apartment felt different that night. not like a temporary stopping place where a young adult lived while figuring out her real life, but like home, like a space that belonged to a capable, independent woman who had every right to make her own decisions about how she spent her time and who she spent it with. I made myself a cup of tea, sat down at my kitchen table with my laptop, and opened my email. There, in my inbox, was a message I'd been thinking about for weeks, but hadn't quite had the courage to respond to. 3 months earlier, I'd been contacted by a headhunter about a position in Portland, Oregon, Vice President of Marketing at a innovative, sustainable fashion company that was expanding rapidly and looking for someone to lead their brand development and customer acquisition strategy. The salary was $180,000, more than I'd ever imagined making, and significantly more than what Sarah was earning in her new VP position at the bank. I'd had 3 rounds of interviews, all conducted via video call, and each one had gone better than the last. The company culture seemed incredible, collaborative, forward-thinking, with a genuine commitment to environmental responsibility and ethical business practices. The CEO was a woman about my age who had built the company from nothing into a multi-million-dollar operation in just 5 years. She spoke to me like an equal, like someone whose ideas and expertise were valuable. But I'd been hesitating to accept their offer because it would mean leaving everything familiar behind, moving across the country, away from family, away from the life I'd built here. My parents had raised me to value family connections above everything else, and I'd been worried about what it would mean to put my career ambitions ahead of staying close to home. Sitting in my quiet apartment, thinking about the kids' table and the conversation I hadn't been mature enough to join, I realized how foolish I'd been. My family didn't value my presence or my contributions. They saw me as a child to be managed, not an adult to be respected. Why was I limiting my opportunities to accommodate people who didn't even want me at their table? I opened a new email and began typing. Dear Rebecca, thank you so much for your patience as I've considered your offer. I'm excited to accept the VP of Marketing position and am prepared to start as soon as possible. I can be in Portland for the paperwork and onboarding process within 2 weeks. I'm looking forward to contributing to the company's continued growth and success. I sent the email before I could second-guess myself, then immediately began researching moving companies and apartment rentals in Portland. By midnight, I had scheduled 3 virtual apartment tours for the following day and gotten quotes from 2 moving services. I was really doing this. I was finally putting my own life and career first. My phone had been buzzing periodically throughout the evening, but I'd kept it turned off. When I finally powered it back on at around 11 p.m., I found 23 missed calls and dozens of text messages. The progression was almost comical if it wasn't so revealing about my family's priorities. The first few texts were from Sarah. Where did you go? We missed you at dinner. Hope your work crisis is okay. Thanks for handling it professionally. Then came messages from my mother. Madison, call me when you get this. We're worried about you. This isn't like you to just disappear. My father had left several voicemails, his voice growing more irritated with each one. Madison, you need to call us back immediately. Your mother is beside herself with worry. This kind of behavior is exactly why we worry about your maturity level. Call me back right now, young lady. But it was the later messages that really revealed what was going on. Around 10 p.m., after they'd presumably gotten home and had time to discuss the evening, the tone shifted dramatically. Madison, we need to talk about what happened tonight. Mum, your dramatic exit ruined Sarah's celebration. Very selfish. Dad, everyone was asking where you went. So embarrassing. Sarah, you made the whole family look bad. Michael. This is why you can't be trusted at important events. David, I read through all of them twice, marvelling at how quickly concern for my well-being had transformed into anger about how my actions had affected them. Not one person had asked why I'd left or acknowledged that there might have been something wrong with the seating arrangement. Instead, they were upset that my departure had caused them inconvenience and embarrassment. I composed one group text message and sent it to all of them. I'm fine. Thank you for the lovely children's dinner. I've made some important decisions about my life, and I'll be in touch soon to discuss them with you. Then I turned the phone off again and went to bed. For the first time in months, I slept soundly. The next morning brought a flood of new messages, but I had 3 apartment viewings scheduled via video call and a resignation letter to write. Rebecca from the Portland company had already responded to my acceptance email with enthusiasm and a detailed onboarding schedule. Everything was moving quickly, which felt exactly right. Writing my resignation letter was surprisingly emotional. I'd been happy at my current job, and I genuinely respected my colleagues and supervisor. But as I explained my reasons for leaving, an opportunity for significant career advancement in a new market, I realized how much I'd been undervaluing my own professional growth by staying in a familiar but limited environment. My boss, Jennifer, was disappointed but understanding when I delivered the letter in person. "You've been one of our strongest team leaders," she said. "I hate to lose you, but this sounds like an amazing opportunity. You should absolutely take it." It was such a stark contrast to how my family had always responded to my professional achievements. Jennifer saw my potential and encouraged me to pursue it, even though my departure would create challenges for her team. My own parents had never once encouraged me to push beyond my comfort zone or pursue opportunities that might take me away from their immediate influence. I spent the day handling logistics, scheduling movers, researching Portland neighborhoods, arranging for mail forwarding. Practical tasks that made the decision feel real and concrete. By evening, I'd viewed 3 apartments online and put a deposit down on a beautiful 1-bedroom place in the Pearl District, close to my new office and within walking distance of great restaurants and coffee shops. I was just finishing dinner when the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I could see my entire family standing in the hallway outside my apartment. All of them, parents, siblings, spouses, even the kids. They looked like a delegation that had come to conduct serious business. I took a deep breath and opened the door. "Hi, everyone. This is unexpected." "Madison," my father said, using his lawyer voice, "we need to talk. May we come in?" I stepped aside and let them file into my living room, though there weren't enough seats for everyone. The adults arranged themselves on my couch and chairs, while the kids sat on the floor, looking uncomfortable and confused about why they'd been dragged along for what was clearly going to be a serious family discussion. "We're very concerned about your behaviour lately," my mother began, perching on the edge of my armchair like she was prepared to flee at any moment. "Leaving dinner last night was completely inappropriate, and now you're not answering your phone. We don't understand what's gotten into you." "What's gotten into me," I said calmly, "is that I've finally realized something important about how this family operates, and I've made some decisions based on that realization." "Madison," Sarah interjected, "if you were upset about the seating arrangement, you should have just said something. You didn't need to make such a dramatic exit and ruin everyone's evening." "I did say something," I replied. "I pointed out that I'm 28 years old and might be more appropriate at the adult table. Mum explained that I wasn't mature enough for grown-up conversation and that I'd be more comfortable with the children." An uncomfortable silence fell over the room. My siblings exchanged glances, and I could see them starting to realize that maybe the seating arrangement had been more problematic than they'd initially thought. "Honey," my mother said, her voice taking on the patient tone she used when she thought one of us was being unreasonable. "You know that's not what I meant. It's just that you're at a different life stage than your siblings. They're all married, they have children, they understand the pressures of managing households and careers simultaneously. It wasn't about maturity, it was about shared experiences." "Mum," I said, "I manage a team of 5 people at work. I oversee marketing campaigns with budgets larger than most people's annual salaries. I've been financially independent since college. What shared experiences was I missing that would have prevented me from participating in a conversation about Sarah's promotion or Michael's work projects?" My father cleared his throat. "Madison, I think you're overreacting to what was simply a practical seating decision. Your mother was trying to ensure that everyone was comfortable and that the children were properly supervised during an important business dinner." "Dad," I said, looking directly at him, "when you introduce your children to your business associates, how do you describe me?" He looked confused by the question. "What do you mean?" "Last night, when you were talking to your colleagues, how did you introduce Sarah? How did you introduce Michael and David? And how did you introduce me?" I watched him think back through the evening, and I could see the moment when he realized what I was getting at. His expression shifted from confusion to discomfort. I introduced you as my youngest daughter." "And how did you introduce Sarah?" "As my daughter, the bank VP." "And Michael?" "As my son who works in tech development." "So Sarah gets to be defined by her professional achievements. Michael gets to be defined by his career, but I'm just the youngest daughter, even though I have a professional career that I'm successful at." David, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. "Madison, you're being really unfair. Dad's proud of all of us. You know that." "I know he says he's proud," I replied, "but pride and respect are different things. Being proud of someone means you think they're doing well for their circumstances. Respecting someone means you see them as an equal who's capable of making their own decisions and contributing meaningfully to important conversations." I looked around the room at my family. These people who claimed to love me, but who had never quite figured out how to see me as a complete person rather than their eternal baby sister. "I have something to tell you all," I said. "Yesterday, I accepted a job offer in Portland, Oregon. I'm going to be the VP of marketing at a sustainable fashion company, and I'll be moving there permanently in 2 weeks." The reaction was immediate and explosive. Everyone started talking at once. My mother gasping, my father demanding to know why I hadn't discussed this with them, my siblings asking if I'd lost my mind. "Portland," my mother said, her voice rising. "Madison, that's 3,000 miles away. You can't just move across the country without talking to your family first." "Actually, Mom, I can," I said. "I'm an adult, and this is my decision to make. I don't need permission to pursue a career opportunity." "But what about your job here?" Sarah asked. "What about your apartment, your friends? You can't just abandon your whole life on a whim." "It's not a whim," I replied. "It's a carefully considered career move. The position is a significant promotion with a substantial salary increase. It's an opportunity to work for a company whose values align with mine, in a role where I'll have real authority and decision-making power." "How substantial?" my father asked, his lawyer instincts kicking in. "The salary is $180,000 plus equity," I said. Another moment of stunned silence. I could see them doing the math, realizing that this little job their immature youngest daughter had landed was paying more than any of them earned. "Madison," my mother said weakly, "money isn't everything. Family is what matters. We love you. We don't want you so far away." I know you love me, Mum, I said gently. But love and respect aren't the same thing either. You love the version of me that you've created in your minds, the perpetual youngest child who needs guidance and protection. But that's not who I actually am anymore, and I don't think you're capable of seeing the real me as long as I stay in the role you've assigned me. Michael leaned forward. Madison, I think you're reading too much into one dinner. If the seating arrangement upset you, we can talk about that, but throwing away your life here over something so minor seems extreme. It wasn't one dinner, Michael, I said. It was 28 years of being treated like I'm not quite ready for real life. It was being excluded from family decisions, having my professional achievements dismissed as cute or entry level, being told I'm too immature for adult conversations, while simultaneously being expected to handle adult responsibilities like coordinating events I'm not allowed to attend. I stood up and walked to my kitchen counter, where I'd left the folder containing all my Portland paperwork. I brought it back and set it on the coffee table. This isn't a tantrum or an emotional reaction, I said. This is a business decision made by a professional adult who's tired of being underestimated by the people who should know her best.